Hello and welcome to another episode of the Agency Leadership Podcast. I'm Chip Griffin.
And I'm Jenny Dietrich.
And Jenny, as we sit here on a Monday and record this, I am truly optimistic. I have published my planned photo schedule for the evenings this week. And despite the fact that it says it's going to rain Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I still have games on that calendar. And I am optimistic that we will actually get those games in, even though they don't generally play baseball and softball in the rain.
I don't know if that's optimistic or masochistic.
Oh, no, masochistic would be they were lacrosse games, and I know they're going to be played in the rain, and I'm still looking forward to getting
and you're
wet
still
while I
looking
take the
forward
photos.
to it.
No, I suspect if the forecast is what it is, I think it is highly unlikely that any of those games will be played.
Well, good. Then you can be optimistic that you don't have to go shoot photos.
There you go. I can be optimistic to have some evenings to catch up on real work instead of
That's right.
photography.
Right.
But
that's right.
Optimism is kind of the theme of the day here, though, because we have recently completed the SAGA Agency AI Survey, and it turns out that agency owners, to nobody's surprise, are eternally optimistic. And they are astoundingly optimistic about AI and how they're using it and what it means for their businesses.
Yes, indeed. So I looked at the results, and that is my takeaway as well, is that they're extremely optimistic. 89% have regular or widespread use. 74% use it every day. 89% expect AI use to grow over the next 12 months. And so, yes, it is very optimistic. 88% report productivity gains and 79% report quality gains.
It is amazing how much work AI is doing for agencies today. It is frankly unbelievable. And I mean that literally.
Literally, yes.
I do not believe it.
Yeah.
I have either stumbled across a sample of the earliest adopters who are most interested in AI and have really taken it the furthest, or more likely, people don't really understand what's out there and so therefore think they are further ahead than they are.
Yeah, I think it's, well, I mean, I will say that the ahead of peers piece of it. So that the data said that 53% believe that they're somewhat or further ahead than their peers, and only 13% think they're behind. That's mathematically impossible. And so I think my take on it, and I'd love your take as well, is that they're grading themselves on their usage and not on the operational depth of it. So, for instance, they're using ChatGPT every day as a habit, but they're not operationalizing AI as a business model. And I think that 53% are confusing the two.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably a multitude of factors. I think part of it is that agency owners visualize a very low bar for their peers when it comes to AI.
Okay.
And I think part of that is that people aren't hearing a lot of examples of how other agencies are using AI. They're not as active as some of us may be in going out and seeing how other industries, similar industries, are using AI and really testing the limits and understanding what's possible. So I think part of it is that they don't have an appropriate baseline to know whether they are indeed ahead or not because they've set the bar so low in their own minds. And I think that part of it is, this point that if they're just using it at all, they think that puts them ahead.
Yeah, I think that that's what's going on. I think that they're saying, well, yeah, I use it every day. And that's what makes them think that they're ahead.
Right. But I think as we dig in deeper and we look at how they're actually using it, it's pretty obvious that most of the usage by these owners is what I would call generative AI 101. Draft me an email.
Yep.
Help me create a blog post or a social post.
Yep.
There's nothing in this data that suggests that there is widespread innovative use of it, widespread use of it for internal operations or for business development or any of those things. It really appears to be sort of the basics, sort of the things that people were talking about a year or two ago in terms of generative AI. And that seems to be where most of the activity and most of the stated value is. But even in those areas, there's a good swath of agencies that aren't even doing that.
Right.
I think if I recall correctly, the number was only like 74% are using AI to help revise or edit content. It's mind-boggling to me that that's not almost 100%.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
Because it's the easiest way to improve the quality of your content.
Yes, it is.
So
Yes.
I can't even imagine not just saying, hey, take a quick look at this. I mean, even if it's just to proof it, just take a look
Right.
through, make sure I haven't
Right.
missed anything obvious here. And,
Right.
because anytime I run it through, it tends to find something.
Yep.
So why aren't you at least doing that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that because we just submitted an article to PR Daily, and I know that Allison Carter is a huge, 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 huge stickler for AP style. So I have an AP style agent, and I ran it through there, and it. I think it got 5 or 6 different things that I had missed. I was like, thank heaven, because she will send it back. She'll be like, nope. I mean, huge stickler. So, and like, yes, to your point, like you should be using it for that. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, that's just to me that's a very basic use, but there are so many great things that you can do with it. I mean, the tiny percentage of people that are using it for anything design related
Right. Yeah, it
was
was almost 0%.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
shocking to
It was
me
shocking. Yep.
that such a small percentage seemed to be using it for that. I mean, we didn't say you're using it for every image or every video or those kinds of, but if you're not even experimenting with it,
Yeah.
you're missing a real opportunity because there's a lot that you can do with it. Now, I don't, one of the things that I don't know is, what percentage of these people may not do this because they have the ethical concern, right? And I've been at a few events recently and watched a few talks online where, there's an what I consider an unnatural resistance to AI because of use of electricity or
Yeah.
because of
Data centers and
concerns
yeah.
over copyright and that kind of stuff. And so it causes people to swear off the platforms and tools altogether rather than saying, let's try to find solutions to all of these things. And let's face it, there are solutions being sought for all of it, whether it's
Sure.
the electricity angle, whether it's the copyright angle. There's a lot of work being done in that area. And for individuals to just say, no, I'm not even going to do this is extraordinarily short-sighted in my view.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I think we've both talked about this ad nauseum that you should. w- I don't believe that AI is going to replace us. I believe that people who know how to use AI effectively is what's going to replace you. So if you're putting your head in the sand, you will be replaced for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other place that was interesting, and you flagged this in your pre-show notes, is that they're reporting largely productivity gains,
Right.
and yet revenue seems to be flat or declining. Doesn't really match up.
Nope. Again, doesn't work. AI is making everyone faster at work, but it's not growing the business. That is not what we're trying to do. So what it tells us, right, is that AI is being absorbed into the existing scope. There's silent commoditization so that clients are getting more for the same less for the same fees. So we're over servicing. We're filling our freed hours with admin, more client servicing or more meetings, and more billable work on undifferentiated services rather than building anything scalable. So that's what I think is happening is all of the work, all of the AI that all the work that AI is doing is being absorbed into existing services, into existing fees, and we're over servicing rather than building new product lines or new service lines.
Yeah, and there are so many opportunities for agencies to truly be innovative and to find these new things that it seems to me that any agency owner should be thinking about that and not so much just, how can we incrementally improve productivity? How can we make sure that we're claiming we're ahead of the rest of the pack? How can you actually make a difference for your business for the long term? Because there is huge runway to be had here. And now is the time to be experimenting when costs are much more reasonable than they are likely to be in the not too distant future. I can't put a
Yep.
particular
Yep.
timeline on it, but it is blatantly obvious that the cost of all of these tools is going to go up,
Yep.
as it has with everything else. I mean, I remember the early days of the land grab of Google Ads, and I built an entire business on the back of really cheap Google Ads in the early days. And those same ads that I got for pennies back 25 now are $20 or more per click for the exact same search terms. And so these costs are going to increase. Now is the time to experiment and figure out what works and what doesn't when the cost of failure is much lower.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Like the cost to failure is lower, the risk to failure is lower. Like it's actually fun. You know, I did a webinar for IABC last week, and I showed them the peso model diagnostic that we just launched, and people were like, "How did you do this?" And I'm like, "I vibe coded it. Like, I did it."
Right.
I was like, here's what I want. Here's what I want it to do. And it took 2 or 3 iterations for me to get it exactly right. And there will be a version 2, because now that I'm seeing people take it, I'm like, oh, okay, we should change that question or move this around. Like, right. But I launched a version 1 out there just to see. And we're getting data from it. I get all of the data, which is fantastic. I can see where people sit in the PESO model maturity ladder. You don't have to have a copyright like I have with the PESO model. You can absolutely do, like, we just vibe coded an ROI calculator for our lead nurturing program for, prospects. Here's an ROI calculator. Here's the 4 things that we hear prospects say they have challenges with. Here's how much we think, like, and you can move the numbers around and you can toggle things. We vibe coded that.
Right.
We didn't have to hire a developer for it. We did it internally, and it was super fun to work on as a team. So there's so many things that you can do.
Really, there's no shortage, and there are plenty of people out there who are sharing different ideas, and so
Yes.
the inspiration that you can
Yes.
take from
Yes.
others is immense. But
Yes.
I do worry that that this survey sort of reinforces what you and I have talked about, which is that there's not enough awareness and incentive apparently amongst agency owners to be pursuing these paths, and it does seem to be much more of a complacent attitude towards the use of AI in their businesses. I will say, I mean, at least it is. I was encouraged by the fact that agencies do not seem to be seeing clients calling up and saying, "Hey, we want to cut your fee." So that's
Yep. Yeah, it's
that's
good.
been a
Yep.
widespread
Yep.
fear, but it was
Yep.
the data was quite clear that that is not something that is happening, at least at the moment. We obviously don't know whether clients are just deciding to do things on their own internally. And so, maybe agencies are losing renewals or pitches to internal use of AI. Didn't ask that question in particular. Maybe for a follow-up one somewhere down the road, that would be a good follow-up question. But
Mhm,
honestly, I
mhm.
was a little surprised that there didn't seem to be any direct pricing pressure, at least from AI, from clients.
Yeah, and I mean, focus group of 1, I will agree with that. One of the things that we're seeing is not pricing pressure, but we work with big companies, and going through procurement, which is always fun. The questions that we're getting are, how are you using AI? What environments do you use? How are you protecting our data? How will you use this specific data? So they ask those really specific questions, and we have to outline exactly what we're going to do, and we can't stray from that. So if something comes along 6 months from now that will improve it or make it better, we have to go back and revise sort of the AI policy that we've created with them with procurement. But that's what we're seeing, so that it's less about you should charge us less and more about, we want to know exactly what you're doing with our information so that we can protect it and we can firewall it and do all of the things that we need to do to make sure that it stays safe.
Yeah, and the largest enterprise clients are always more worried about that stuff than anybody else.
Of
And so,
course. Of course.
as we've talked about before, if that's a market you're going to play in, then you need to understand the impact not just on AI but other things. You need to price accordingly for that headache, and more importantly, to your point about making sure that you don't make a change 6 months from now that it violates the agreement. That it's important that you have the infrastructure in place to manage those kinds of accounts,
Right.
which is these are all just more reasons why I would encourage most smaller agencies to steer clear of these, because while they sound like great opportunities, they come with a whole lot of extra headaches that
Oh,
you're probably
yes.
not thinking
Yes.
about. And if you've never had to experience it directly yourself, you have a real good chance of stepping in something somewhere along the way because you didn't set up and you didn't make sure that everything you do gets vetted by somebody who is familiar with the contract terms,
Yeah.
which in a small agency is probably you, the owner. And do you
Yeah.
really want to be
Yep.
filtering all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Oh, I was just going to say, there's also which we started to talk about, but 98% are using AI in client work, 13% put it in contracts, 15% charge for it, 61% have no plans to charge. And you mentioned that 88% haven't had a client
Yeah.
ask for a discount.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is an area where I had less concern, honestly, because I think that I'm not sure I would agree that agencies should be charging for AI explicitly. I think it should be creating new value that you can charge
Yes.
for.
Yes.
But one of the reasons why I put that question in there was because I was actually a little concerned that agencies might be explicitly trying to charge for
Interesting.
some of these AI tools. And I think that you shouldn't, because to me, that's like, charging specifically for a freelancer or something like that. You need to be in a position where you're focused on what are you producing in terms of deliverables, results, et cetera, for the client, and not the mechanics of how you get there. Because if you get into the space where you're charging for the tools or for the use of AI, it takes away some of your flexibility in the future
Hmm.
to either earn a greater profit or shift how you're just doing things operationally or any of those kinds of things. So I'm actually not a fan of calling it out specifically, but it should create additional value for you
Yeah.
that you can charge for that.
Yes.
I don't, my guess is that people looked at it as a more direct, are you charging for AI itself?
Yeah.
And so I was actually happy that there wasn't a lot of that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think if you think about using AI to create new service lines, to create new opportunities, and really, I'm sure that every single person listening to this has a list of things they've always wanted to do. Our ROI calculator is a great example of that. The PESO model diagnostic is another one. Like I have probably 4 pages in my notebook of things that I would love to try at some point. This makes it accessible.
Hmm.
You can do it yourself. You don't have to wait until you can hire a developer. You don't have to wait if you want to build an app. You don't have to wait until you can afford to hire an app developer. You can actually do this on your own. Will it be perfect? Will it be, as great as if you hired a developer? No, but taking it out there as a beta test or a version 1, absolutely you can do that and test it out and see if it works. See if your idea has legs and has merit, and then use that to generate some income that then eventually you would hire a professional to help you repackage it and make it beautiful.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of people are vibe coding apps and that kind of thing, and it's great that it gets you there, and it's great that it's causing you to expand your horizons. I think people do need to keep in mind that maintaining these applications over time
Yeah.
requires a little bit more effort
Yeah.
than I think some people realize. I've
Yeah.
seen plenty of people vibe code these apps and be like, "Oh, cool, we're all done." Well, yeah, but if you're going to have a lot of users on it over time, there are going to be hiccups. People are going to do things that you don't imagine. So, if it's something simple,
And I saw on Reddit yesterday that somebody had vibe coded an app and took it to like 40 people to beta test it, and it worked so well that it was costing him a significant amount of
yeah,
money to keep it going, and he was like, I don't know what to do. So there are those pieces of it too, but I think just experimenting with some of your ideas, AI can help you do that for sure.
yeah, and if you can get to the proof of concept stage, that at least opens the
Yep.
door for you to begin to think through a rational business model for it. But if you don't even experiment, then you're never going to have that opportunity. And that brings us to the last point that I wanted to raise from the survey, which is the disconnect between how owners perceive their own capabilities with AI and their team's capabilities
Hmm.
with
Hmm.
AI.
Hmm.
And owners, their optimism extends very much to themselves, and they see them themselves as at the leading edge of AI, with their teams lagging behind. Not incompetent or inept or anything like that, but I think it was 84% of owners rated themselves as moderately or very knowledgeable about AI, and 61% of their team as the same. So obviously a meaningful difference between those two. I think that 84% is extraordinarily generous scoring for the owners in terms of their knowledge of AI, because I have conversations with a lot of owners. I would describe very, very few as very knowledgeable and a small percentage as moderately knowledgeable. I think
Yeah.
slightly knowledgeable is where I would put more,
Yes. I would agree with that.
at least if we're not grading on a curve. If we're grading on,
Yeah.
comparison to other similar professionals, I just don't see small agencies as a place where AI today, at least, is thriving.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And like you, I mean, I'm not so much in the coaching business anymore, but I have lots and lots and lots of friends who run agencies, and same thing. Like I would say it's slightly knowledgeable.
Yeah. But I do agree that probably many of their teams lag behind them because the teams don't have the time. They don't, the
Yep.
owner isn't making the investment
Yep.
in them in terms of
Yep.
time or
Yep.
products or services.
Yep.
And so if you want to see that change in your agency, you do need to drive that. You do need to encourage your team to be using more of these things. I mean, one of the numbers that did concern me was I think half of the owners said that one of their biggest concerns with AI was their team's over-reliance on AI. I am not seeing any evidence anywhere of over-reliance on AI by any agency employee.
Oh, I do.
Over-reliance?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do tell.
Mm-hmm. My own team. Sometimes I'm like, you
I
guys.
suppose part of this is how you define over-reliance.
Let's not use AI for everything. You gotta actually use your brain.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, yeah. I guess to me, in the use cases that I see with most agencies, it's not relying on the AI enough, and less so over reliance. But I'm sure there are cases.
It is over reliance in my organization for sure.
That is good to know. So in any case, lots of room for agencies to continue to improve on AI, but happy that there is this optimism. I much prefer this to, when I put this survey out, I wasn't sure if it was going to be just all fear and doom and gloom and, oh my God, what is AI going to do to my business? Because you hear a lot of that, when you're talking with agency owners, but for the most part, it doesn't seem to be the case. It does. I think there are certainly pockets of over-optimism to a degree that needs to be addressed, and there needs to be more experimentation, more innovation, more investment, and all of those things if agencies are really going to thrive with AI in the future.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So with that will wrap up this episode of the Agency Leadership Podcast. I'm Chip Griffin.
I'm Ginny Dietrich.
And it depends.